So thanks for doing this, Derek.
It's okay, Andy. Pleased to do it.
And before we start the interview proper, there's something that I've wanted to know for quite some time. And that's when you were a footballer, what position did you play?
Midfield.
Midfield?
Well, it wasn't midfield in those days. It was like we had inside forwards and half-backs. The coaching, around the time I signed for Liverpool, the coach across England changed. And the inside forward become the midfielders. Mm. Yeah, half-backs, they become, well, from half-backs, they become attacking defenders. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so basically, it was still the same, but in my day, when I first signed for Liverpool, the inside forward I was a player to take the ball, pass the ball, and other times to dribble as well. Mm. Not like a winger, with this free space. Now, when we went to midfield, it was you were central or you were right or left, and you didn't go beyond your place. Mm. You certainly didn't run up the wing to a free ball. I was the old-fashioned inside forward. The moment I signed for Liverpool, I become a midfielder.
So what was the most memorable game as a footballer?
Most memorable game? Oh gosh, I suppose it was when I was not at Liverpool. It was when I was at a club called Glentoran in Ireland. I signed with the Golden Vision. When he left Everton Football Club, was a man called Alex Young, Scottish international. And Alex signed me, took me over to Ireland, and I was straight into the first team. And we were playing Ballymena. Now, player manager of Ballymena was also an ex-Everton player called Alex Parker, the fullback, Scottishman as well. And so we were playing them at their ground, and we were 3-0 down. And Alex couldn't believe it, because the last game they played, I hadn't signed for them, but at that last game where they beat them 1-0. He gave us a right dressing down in the dressing room, and he said, "Now come on, you lads." He said, "We've got international players in this side. Come out and start playing like men, not like, excuse the word, women." That's what Alex said. So we came out, and we got one back. It was 3-1. It was about 10 minutes. And the lads were starting to play the football that they could play. And I got onto a ball, and Alex was playing on the left flank, and I clipped the ball over into free ground, and he ran onto it and hammered it right into the top of the net, 3-2, and we knew then we're coming back and what have you. And somewhere along the line, in the last 20 odd minutes, it was Alex that crossed the ball on 2 occasions, and I got up in that group and nodded 2 goals, which we ended up beating them. You know, the score, we beat them. That was the most, because from there on in, the next 5 or 6 games, we scored 5 or 6 goals, no matter who we played. We were really on song. So it was in Ireland, I think.
Yeah. So how did you make the transition from footballer to medium?
Well, that question gets asked a lot, and I've done over the years. Well, quite simply, my grandmother was a medium, so I knew what mediumship was all about, brought up with it, you know, because she was a medium. But from a very early age, I was showing the signs that I had the gifts that Gran noticed.
And what signs are these?
Well, I saw, actually, at the age of 6, I saw a man in one of my grandmother's bedrooms. I could see him as clear as you. I could see the suit he was wearing. I could see his features. When I saw him, I froze. I thought there was a strange man in my grand's house. And he actually spoke to me, said a few words. And when I went and told Gran what I'd seen, there's a strange man in the bedroom. Where? Come on. She went up, he'd gone. She knew then that I'd had the spiritual experience, so she watched me then over the years. So, of course, making the transition, all the time I played football, I was developing as a medium, but quietly. I'd see things, I'd get impressions, I'd tell people around me, not all the time, and they'd see those things happen. And I first started doing it at Liverpool Football Club as a young player. I remember the time that Liverpool signed a great player, turned out to be a great player, great man, lovely soul, lovely man, Emlyn Hughes. And Emlyn got signed by Shanks, come from Blackpool. And at the first day of training, I mated up with him and really got on well with him. And after football we used to go out together and stuff. You know, he was a single man, I was naturally a single guy. But he was in the first team, I wasn't. He went straight in the first and they signed him for that. I was hovering between the A side and the reserves, A side and reserves, but we were still mates. And I remember saying to Emlyn, we were sitting, we used to do the same thing every day, boring as it may sound. But a lot of the players, after we finished training at Melwood, we'd go into Liverpool city centre and we'd sit, best part of the time in the afternoons, in this rather famous, if you like, Cardoma Cafe. It was known by everyone in Bowl Street. Some of the Evan players used to come in and we'd have chats, you know, talking to people. And I remember sitting opposite him at the table and I think we'd had our third cup of coffee. And I looked at him and I saw this thing and I thought, I said, Emlyn, I said, do you drive? And he said, yeah. I said, what's your car? And he said, I haven't got one at the moment. I'm going for my brand new one tomorrow at this motor place in Liverpool. And Bob Hazley's coming with me, so I'm not going to come on the bus from Anfield down to the training ground tomorrow morning. You'll see me, I'm going to drive my car into Melwood. And I said, great. I said, so I said to him, the car, and I give a car, I knew the type of car it was. And I said, is it a such and such? And he said, yes it is. Why? I said, oh, nothing. So he kept on prompting me, and I didn't want to say, but because he was prompting, because he kept on saying, you're weird, you're strange. And I said, look, and I told him about the gifts and stuff. And he said, what did you say? And I said, I really don't want to tell you. He said, what did you say? He was, you know, and I said, okay, just be careful driving it. And what I could see, it was him crashing the car. But what I did see, I could see him standing on the pavement looking at this car that was a write-off, but there wasn't a scratch on him. And when I ended up telling him, and he said, I will be careful, okay. Next day, didn't sleep properly that night. Got up to go to Anfield, get changed in the kit onto the coach. Goes to Melwood, and we were only into warm-ups around. They used to take the coaches around the perimeter of the ground just to warm us up before we got into serious training. And we just finished, and I remember Joe Fagan saying, okay lads, 5 minutes and then we go into the box, meaning the bingo boards where we're really hitting the ball against the numbers and hard stuff, you know. Next minute I heard my voice, Bob Hazley, screaming at me, shouting at me, and I looked, and he's standing on the pavilion, where the old pavilion that was there then, and his hands on his hips, come here son, come here son. So Joe Fagan said, you better get over there quick. And I went, oh jeez, what's wrong? So now I'm running. He said, the boss wants to see you. So the next time he puts his hand on my shoulder and he's pushing me in. He said, go in there. I mean, I was only 15, you know, 15 and a half. And he said, there's Emlyn standing right alongside Bill Shanklin, who's just sitting at his desk. And there's Reuben Bennett, one of the other coaches there, standing all looking, staring at me. So the boss, as we called him, said, oh son, he said, what have you been saying? What have you been saying to this boy? And I looked at him and Emlyn was like this at me, you know, and I went, oh no. So I went quiet, I didn't know what really to say. And then I told him, yes I did, and I'm sorry that it's happened, but, and where did all this come from, son, he said. And I had to explain that my grandma's a medium, it's in my family going back. And he said, right, okay. Well, yeah, at least you said he'd be okay. And I said, yeah, and he said, well look, he said, remember this son? I can't take off Scottish accent, but remember this son, he said. He said, you're a Liverpool footballer. You're not a psychic here. Is that okay? And I said, yeah. And he said, are you sure? And I said, yes, but you'll never hear. And he said, okay, go back to training. Anyway, next minute, Bob Paisley goes out. Emlyn looked at me. Off he went. So I was there to go. Then, I was just going through the door and I heard, son, come back here. I walked back and I thought, what now? And he said to me, come here. Right alongside him at his desk. And he said, okay, we're playing West Ham on Saturday. How are we going to get on? What's the score? He said, not how we get. What's the scores? I'll never forget that the rest of my life.